It's 6 p.m. on a Sunday here in Korea. Welcome to the newscast. I'm Daniel Choy. The Korean government is seeking World Heritage status for materials related to Japan's forced labor of Koreans during the colonial era. The move is being seen as a way to counter Japan's recent bid to list several controversial wartime industrial facilities as UNESCO sites in July. Connie Kim starts us off.
Korea is pushing to make the truth of Japan's forced labor of Koreans during its colonial rule known to the world. Diplomatic sources said Sunday the government has submitted to the Cultural Heritage Administration more than 330,000 pieces of material, including documents and photos on Japan's forced labor of Koreans from 1910 to 1945. The material is also reported to include general information on Japan's occupation of territory outside of Korea and Japan. The collection of material is a result of more than a decade of work by the Cultural Heritage Administration. By next month, the administration will choose 2 items that it'll apply to list on UNESCO's Memory of the World Register. It'll then submit its application to a UNESCO committee, which will make its recommendations for endorsements next summer. The move is being seen as a way to counter Tokyo's successful bid in July to gain World Heritage status for 23 industrial facilities where Koreans were forced into labor before and during World War II. If Korea's bid is successful, it'll be the 3rd time archival material related to its modern history will be made part of the UNESCO list. Materials related to the May 18th democratic uprising against Korea's military rule in 1980 were added to the list in 2011, and those related to the Saemaul Undong, or New Community Movement, launched in 1970, were listed in 2013. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Staying on the topic, the remains of dozens of Koreans forced into labor at such sites in other such sites in Japan are being returned to their homeland this week. The Korean delegation of a committee in charge of repatriating the remains received the first sets of remains on Saturday and will bring back a total of 115 sets of remains by Friday. The remains will travel from their current location in Hokkaido to Korea's port city of Busan, the same route the Koreans traveled when they were drafted into forced labor. A funeral for the deceased will be held at Seoul Plaza on Saturday, and they will be laid to rest at a cemetery in Gyeonggi-do Province the following day. In local politics, a labor reform meeting originally scheduled for 2 p.m. this afternoon has been rescheduled to 6 p.m. due to scheduling issues. There is no word yet on whether the meeting has gotten underway as planned. The meeting aims to hammer out a compromise between labor and management on whether companies should be allowed to dismiss workers with low performance. The 2 sides are also hoping to find a way to narrow the gap between regular workers who enjoy higher job security and pay and irregular workers. Korea is bracing for a tax hike after the government announced it is in need of revenue to help revive the sluggish local economy, which is not recovering as fast as had hoped. Kim Ji-yeon brings us this report.
The government says it has to collect more taxes in the coming years to cover its rising expenses. The Ministry of Strategy and Finance estimates it has to collect at least $313 billion in tax revenue by the end of next year. It adds this amount will reach an all-time high of $338.4 billion by the end of 2017. The government recently laid out a $327 billion budget proposal for 2016. It contains an increase of 3% that's designed to give the economy a much-needed shot in the arm. The ministry says the sluggish local economy is to blame for the sharp rise in the amount of tax revenue needed, despite a set of aggressive stimulus measures it has employed. That included a spending package of roughly $11.5 billion in July. This as Korea's exports, mainly to China, dropped to $39.3 billion last month, the lowest level in 6 years. At the same time, the amount of household debt has soared, reaching a record high of more than 956 billion in June. In response, the ministry says it'll be more cautious when laying out the budget in the future. First, it'll lower its growth forecast, which serves as an important guideline for spending increases from the current 6% range to 4.2%. It will also make it mandatory for government agencies to adopt a pay-as-you-go system, which will require them to reduce spending in advance for new projects. Kim Jian, Arirang News.
Moving on to other stories, commercialization of 3D printing, smart farms, and stem cells in 3 years. That's the ambitious goal set by Korea's Ministry of Science, ICT, and Future Planning and the National Research Council of Science and Technology. It may sound like a tall order, but efforts to make strides in these fields have been ongoing in line with the government's flagship creative economy policy. More and more conglomerates have been collaborating with the Science Ministry to set up innovation centers that focus on using smart technology in farming. State-led investment has been expanded to speed up clinical trials and the commercialization of stem cells and genetic drugs. And the Science Ministry has been collaborating with the Trade Ministry to develop the 3D printing industry and promote its integration with the Internet of Things, big data, and e-commerce. Chuseok, the Korean harvest holiday, is less than 4 weeks away, and consumers and retailers are occupied with the gift packages that are traditionally handed out by employers and families. This year, retailers sensitive to the sluggish economy are offering a wide variety of discounted and promotional items. Lotte Mart is slashing 30% off some 780 Chuseok gift sets, while other major retailers are holding all kinds of 2-for-1 events. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Environment is seeking to reduce the amount of packaging in oversized holiday gift boxes. Under a new regulation, the core items must fill at least 75% of a box. The fine levied on companies that fail to meet the requirements starts at a minimum of $2,500. China has ended the search for those missing from a massive explosion in Tianjin. A month has passed since 2 blasts ripped through a warehouse in Tianjin port where a large amount of toxic chemicals was stored. 165 people were killed in the blast and hundreds more injured and hospitalized. The latest from the Tianjin authorities, 8 people are still unaccounted for, but they are unlikely to be found alive. The Civil Affairs Department of the Binhai New Area vowed to compensate and recognize the families of the firefighters who died in the explosions. The courts and districts where the missing were last known to have lived will declare their deaths when receiving petitions from their families. Seoul is the 6th most expensive place to visit among 11 major cities in Asia. That's according to online travel booking site Expedia, which says visitors need to spend around $280 per day when in the South Korean capital. That's almost double the amount one would need for a trip to Tokyo. In contrast, the Japanese city of Osaka easily outranks Seoul. Bali at more than $400 per day, and Hong Kong also at heftier price tags. The ranking shows Hanoi is the ideal destination for budget travelers, as a visitor's daily travel expenses average just over $110 a day. The cost per day takes into account a one-night stay at a 5-star hotel, taxi fare, 3 meals, and 2 pints of beer. Tourists and residents alike came out this weekend to get a chance to soak in traditional Korean culture at a festival held in the heart of Seoul. Lee Soo-eun takes us there.
A marching folk band, a plate-spinning jester, and a royal couple in their wedding hanbok. This is a royal procession passing through the heart of Seoul.
Here at the 28th Insa Traditional Culture Festival, children, tourists, or just about everybody is enjoying a weekend full of Korean traditional culture.
Modern culture is good, but traditional culture is in our roots. People need to take more of an interest in it.
And that's exactly what this festival is for, giving people the opportunity to enjoy Korea's traditions with their own hand. This tourist sits around a traditional Korean wooden table called sang with his friends and immerses himself in the subtle scent of tea, just like Koreans have done for centuries.
It is nice to drink it, especially with the traditional way of the people serving the tea, and after that you feel so relaxed.
Others are making their own wooden folk paintings of tigers and magpies meant to shoo away ghosts.
Loving it. Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. Well, we're going to take this back home, then we're going to post this home tomorrow.
The Insa Traditional Culture Association has been hosting the festival since 1987. Back then, it was just about giving people in Seoul an extra something to do over the weekend. But now, the event has taken on a life of its own.
About 300,000 people visit Insadong for the festival. It's an event where people can understand the Korean identity.
The festival wraps up on Sunday, but the spirit of Korean traditional culture will continue to flourish in Insadong. Isuun, Arirang News.
And before we go, let's take a quick look at the weather conditions. Here in Korea, except for some fog in the morning and inland areas, expect clear and sunny skies in most parts of the nation on Monday. This week, brace yourself for colder mornings and nights, with the mercury diving to 15 at night and then rising all the way up to 28 when the sun is up. That's it for Korea. Here's a look at the weather conditions in other parts of our world. And that's all for now. We'll be back with more updates at 10 p.m. Korea time, so do join us then. Thanks for watching.